He wants to jump
1,000 cars. Sir, you have 1,000 cars.
I don't think I'd attempt to try this stunt.
Or we owe this horsepower to Uncle Sam.
Too many cars.
car. Roses would be...
Like I put my beer belly on it.
You can't immediately tell somebody how many cars you have.
You'll really give those uppity yuppies something to think about.
Stay on the bar. Don't go off the bar with your Bronco.
1980 Volvo horns. What's right? I want to have a man's coolant.
And he's like, oh, I thought it'd be small. It's for a small car. And I'm like, yeah, but it's still an automatic transmission. They're never going to be light.
It's definitely going to have to crash.
Starting off with Brad buying another car.
That's the West.
Internet. Is this a Nigerian oil print?
I also wish you drove a Tan Camry.
Anyways,
Anyway,
that's a
horrible,
very
horrible podcast content.
very
Talking about a picture.
inside joke. Welcome to Auto Off Topic. How are you, Brad?
I am wonderful. What's going on with you?
Oh, it's just peachy here. I did do some stuff to the cars because it was clear out and I was feeling better.
Excellent.
And
it wasn't 20 degrees?
Oh no, it's still pretty cold.
Oh, okay.
I was trying not to talk about the weather, but you did it.
Listen, we have to talk about the weather. I mean, I live in Phoenix and I had to scrape ice off my windows this morning.
No, it's so sad for you.
That's not something that we can just gloss over. It's very important.
Yeah. But it's the end of the year, and we are going to do a Project Car State of the Union because we've got
State of the Project Car Union. Yes.
Yeah, because we've got lots of updates. Actually, I don't really have any. I don't have any down dates. I've got all updates.
This is the traditional time where we mention all of the cars we have, and we give our best laid plans for the next year, in which you, grateful audience, for you, audience, you, wonderful audience, is supposed to hold us tight to. So
I got a lot done, so that'll be exciting to go over. Looking back at it, I was like, oh, I felt pretty accomplished.
Yeah, I mean, I did too. I was thinking the other day that I've bought a lot of new cars this year, and that's kind of annoying. But I also sold 3 cars this year.
Whoa.
Got rid of 3 cars. Yeah. And there were 2 cars that came and went. So, I mean, it's like they didn't even last a whole year here. That's amazing. So, there's definitely progress.
That is amazing.
Made. Yeah, right.
I do want to talk about kind of a crazy story out of the Pacific Northwest. A couple of cars were stolen.
Yeah, well, every day in the Pacific Northwest, it seems to be that cars are being stolen still. And I don't really understand why they're stealing the cars they're stealing, because they're not stealing them for parts, that's for sure. So my assumption is they're just finding places where they know cars are dormant and taking them. A longtime friend of mine, and I think you know him as well, Andrew, Ben Shu, he runs Japanese Nostalgia Car. He had a couple of cars stored in Seattle, a 86 Corolla that he's had for a very long time, and a yellow FD RX-7. And they were both stored in the same garage, and they both went missing. Kind of an enthusiast's worst nightmare, right? So one of the reasons I wanted to bring this story up is I'm unfamiliar with them, but I'm hearing a lot of grumblings and talking about Apple AirTags. Andrew, do you know much about those?
Yes. People are putting them on things to track things without you knowing. So there was an update.
That's the negative purpose of them. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you could. I was actually thinking of putting one on my scooter because the scooters are easily stolen, very easily stolen.
Sure, you can walk away with it.
But yeah, you could hide them in your car. I don't know how long the batteries last.
That's what I was wondering. I didn't know if they were battery powered, need to be charged, or
there is
or what the deal is.
A thing though that they did do an update because people were using them for nefarious purposes. If there's one near your phone and Bluetooth is on, if you have an iPhone, it will alert you because it's not paired to your phone.
Okay.
So this came up talking to a coworker the other day because I don't know, he was talking about it for some reason, and then it was another coworker. It was something that she had borrowed from somewhere. So it was a borrowed item, like she knowingly borrowed it, but her phone was alerting her that there was an AirTag on it because she was concerned that somebody was following her, but it was on the device that she borrowed.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So they don't require constant charging. I don't know much about Apple devices either. I'm not sure if they're compatible with not if you get like a download a program you can use with them, or if it's a
I have no
similar
idea.
device that's not an Apple.
I'm sure there's
thing.
a similar Android version.
Yeah, there must be. But I was considering looking into it and figuring out something that I can put on the cars, because I mean that's a true fear of mine is waking up and having my cars missing or gone or going away and finding somebody stole it, or parking outside of a store or a restaurant, coming out your car being gone. Because unfortunately, I mean it's
Definitely a thing where you live.
Car. It's more common on the West Coast than it is the East Coast, for sure.
Yeah,
For sure. And and again, my cars are generally behind at least a locked gate or in a locked garage. But, these two cars were also in a locked garage, and it doesn't necessarily mean they're safe. People can break into things. And I try not to be too paranoid about stuff, but when it happens to somebody and it's somebody who, takes very good care of their stuff and has a very, they're a very important person in the world of cars. Like Ben started Japanese Nostalgia Car. It could be argued that Ben is the reason that Japanese cars are collectible right now. He kind of gave a voice to those of us that had these cars, and to see it happen to somebody who has that kind of reverence in the community, it's not that it was it was random. It seems it wasn't somebody that stole the cars to park them out or anything, because the good news is both cars were found. The bad news is the AE86 has a little bit of damage on it here and there. It was a very nice car, and the FD is wrecked really, really badly. The entire passenger side is smashed in. The driver's side quarter panel is smashed. Both bumpers are smashed. The front of the car is smashed pretty hard. So it's not that it's unrepairable, but it's definitely a big job to do it. So we'll see what happens there. But thankfully, as the car's back, unfortunately, not in the same shape in which they left. So the weird thing is that the thieves that stole it had apparently robbed a repair facility or a used car dealer a couple weeks ago, and they took a bunch of the plates from those dealers, and they changed all the plates in the cars so that when they were driving around with their stolen cars, they didn't have, the stolen license plates that were tracked back to Ben's, stolen cars. They had what looked like dealer plates on them, so they probably looked like a car that was just bought, and they removed any identifiable stickers that were on the cars and put their own stickers on in place. And one of them even had a parking pass for a condo complex. So hopefully they can use that evidence to find who did it and stop them from doing it in the future. But it doesn't seem like they were used to steal parts or to do anything like that. They were probably just used to go commit more crimes. So
it's strange though to steal those cars.
It was probably just they knew there was a garage they were in and knew nobody was around. I don't know what the situation.
I suppose we subscribe to like the Gone in 60 Seconds, like they're gonna steal the car because it's a desirable car to like send to Mexico or the Middle East or whatever.
Right. I think they got to steal a car that's pre-computer chip key and just drive away with it.
I mean, I know Subarus were super common to be stolen there because you could just jiggle a key into the ignition
and they just blend right in.
Yeah. And I mean, any car without an immobilizer, literally it's not even like hot wiring. If you just go behind into the steering column and pull the ignition switch out, you just turn it.
Yep.
It's just an electrical switch behind the key.
Yep. Old cars are very easy to steal.
And a lot of Delicas were getting stolen for a while there.
Sure. Yep.
So
again, it's in any common car especially gets stolen because you can go do more bad things and blend into traffic. A bright yellow FD RX-7 is not exactly the most subtle vehicle to be driving around in. But a silvery blue AE86 might, blend in a little more. So who knows? It sucks that it happened. I'm glad he got him back. It sucks that one's wrecked pretty bad.
It does.
It just made me think about, tracking my cars, and I know there are plenty of options out there for like legit vehicle trackers that
LoJack
cost money. Yeah, they cost money and a monthly fee, and I have a lot of cars, and I want to
So
protect them all.
I have the description here. All right. So AirTag is designed to discourage unwanted tracking. If someone else's AirTag finds its way into your stuff, your iPhone will notice it's traveling with you and send you an alert. After a while, if you still haven't found it, the AirTag will start playing a sound to let you know where it's there.
So you can't use it to hide it in your car then, because it'll be found eventually.
If they have iPhones. It says, of course, if you happen to be with a friend who has an AirTag or on a train with a whole bunch of people with AirTag, don't worry. These alerts are triggered only when the AirTag is separated from its owner.
Right. I wonder what the time frame is. It's like a 48-hour time frame, because then you'd have like a bunch of cars in the driveway just making noises when you go away for a weekend.
Yeah, I guess that would be the problem, huh?
Yep. So maybe AirTag's not going to work. Let's figure out something else. There's got to be an easy way to do it. I just started thinking about this today, and it's one of those things that you put all this time and effort into these cars, and obviously it was more than one person involved because 2 cars got stolen.
Yeah.
So it's like I can't imagine losing, like, let alone one car, but multiple at the same time is just, these are not to say these are children to us, because they're not. We have children that are our children, but these are very important items to us because our entire life revolves around these things, and to have somebody else just take it from you would be pretty devastating. So anyway, a little negative news to start the day with here. Sorry about that, guys.
There's things called Tile, similar to AirTag.
Okay.
I bet you if you looked into it, I'm sure people have figured it out.
Yeah, it's got to be a way to do it without like a monthly fee. But I don't know. We'll figure it out. Future episode, we'll talk about what we found, and hopefully we never have to use it. Hopefully I only use it to find my lost cell phone. Actually, I wouldn't be able to, because that's how you track it. Hopefully I only ever use it to find my lost keys. There you go. Well, anyway, moving on to the subject of the show today, Andrew.
Mm-hmm.
You want to talk about the year of the car, 2022, and what happened in that year. So why don't you get us started and give us an update on everything you worked on this year and where your cars currently stand and what any future plans are for the cars.
Well, I did a lot. I went out for the first track day in April with the G20. Blew the muffler out because it was all rotted. Didn't plan on replacing it this year because it was working fine until it didn't. So that got a whole new exhaust. And a header from Japan. I did, and I talked about it at length.
It was a story and a half trying to get the thing put together.
And then when I bought the car, it had an ABS light on, and this required replacing all the rear suspension because I had to take the knuckle out. I kind of knew that going in, so I did all new suspension arms, all new hardware, a new ABS sensor, and the light was out. So that's pretty cool. That was like the last holdover of issues from when I bought it. Did some silicone radiator hoses when I had the radiator out to do the header. Got some Cusco upper camber arms because I needed more negative camber for track days. Sticky Azenis RT615s. And that's... Oh, I did the front brakes over with Hawks and new rotors. I forgot about that.
And headlights?
No, the headlights were the year before.
Oh, okay. I didn't know you had it the year before. I guess you did.
Bought it in 2021.
All right.
Yep.
And
And
I was missing my dates up right there.
Yep.
Now you got that ABS sensor from Megazip, correct?
Nope. That was eBay in England.
Okay. You got Megazip parts for the Q45 then.
Yeah, I've gotten Megazip parts for basically everything.
Because a friend of ours used Megazip today because they actually list DSM NOx sensors.
They do, but they won't send it to him because they don't actually exist.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, I wish you had asked
We
me
were-
first because
We
I
were taking
already
bets on whether it would exist or not. Yeah.
I already tried to chase that down because people online were like, they don't make them anymore, and I was like, well, has anybody
Let's give it a
tried the
go.
online? And I went through all three of them and tried to place the order, and they told me it wasn't available.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah, I don't know what people are going to do with that. It's kind of annoying.
There's a couple options out there already. One is from a different car, and one is a custom built option. And
Yeah.
the custom built option is obviously expensive, but it's the kind of stuff that as the cars we love get older, we're going to have to deal with. So
It's a weird
Fortunately-
thing to not make anymore because it's used on a lot of models for Mitsubishi.
yeah, I think the thing is that the part isn't not made. It's just not made with the right pigtail for a Mitsubishi. You just need to figure out what the right one is. There's rumors and grumblings that a Mazda one does work. So you just need to change the harness, like extend the harness. But anyway,
Well, Mitsubishi doesn't make it anymore.
right. It's like a, Nip and Denso or somebody makes one. That
Yeah,
works.
it's just weird that Mitsubishi's usually pretty good about making mechanical parts for like a while.
Sure.
Um,
Well, the car is 33 years old, 32 years old this year. So.
yeah, I know, but they're usually pretty decent about making sensors still. It's kind of weird.
Especially on a popular platform like 4G63 powered cars are definitely still out there. It's not
Yeah.
like it's a 91 Mirage with a single cam.
And then I used PartSork to get the coolant temp sensor for the Galant. I'll get to that for the new radiator. The OEM one I think was available, but there was the aftermarket equivalent of the actual maker of the part was available too for like $20 versus like $40 or something. So
Sure.
if they'll do that, they'll do that. But I've already tried to go through there to try to get some, but it's kind of annoying. So anyway, yeah, I've gone through Amiyama, Megazip, PartSork. That's actually where all the hardware came from for the G20, because that would have cost me $1 million at the dealer, and they would have got really annoyed with me trying to look up all these bolts.
That's half the fun. That's why you pay more at the dealer, just to annoy them.
I probably wouldn't even got what I wanted.
And you annoy them more by going back and trying to get the right thing.
Speaking of cars that, got parts from there. Q45, new OEM struts, all came from Japan, rubber seats, front upper control arms, again, all brand new OEM for Japan. Valve cover gaskets were actually aftermarket ones from Rock Auto. Denso knock sensors, coil packs, OEM maker, but Rock Auto, good price on those there. New OEM MAF sensor from Japan. Tracked on a used turn signal in a salvage yard at the beginning of the year. So that car has got a lot of stuff done to it and runs great now.
And is for sale.
It is.
Buy and enjoy before the inevitable happens and it winds up in my yard.
It's ready to drive across country.
I've managed to not do it for 2 years now.
Yeah, so the Galant got a new radiator that came from Japan. I ordered that in the spring. It showed up in like July. When I went to go do that, it blew a rear brake line, so that got fixed. Got the new temp sensor in there I talked about. I've got on hand all the things to convert it to speed density and to add better fueling. I've got some RC550s, Deutschwerks fuel pump. So that car is going to have a couple things done to it next year. Got to rewire the pump too. What else? Montero got a new ADD off-road bumper that I welded together.
New skill acquired.
Yes. I didn't, unfortunately, prep the paint properly, though. I noticed it's rusting more now. It's coming through.
Another
So-
skill to be acquired.
Well, I didn't use like the metal prep for that Duraback coating, apparently.
Okay.
Because everywhere else in the car where it went over OEM paint, it's perfect.
Well, the OEM paint has a seal behind it anyway, so you're going to bare metal was the problem.
Exactly. Even though I used etching primer, I didn't apparently get to perfectly bare metal. There was like a little bit of flash.
Sure. Yeah.
And also there's like apparently a Durabac metal primer. So I'll have to grind that all off with a wire wheel, which will be fun.
Annoying but repairable. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not too bad. I actually sprayed some like fluid film over the outside of it so it doesn't get like super bad over the winter.
Sure. That's a good plan. Inside and out.
The inside's actually fine, it seems. I don't know. That we talked about the way that Durabac dries. It's like moisture based, how it dries. Like it dries better the more humid it is. It's very strange.
That's opposite of how you think it would work.
Yeah, and it took like a week and a half for it to cure on the bumper. It cured elsewhere on the car much quicker. It's very strange. So anyway, I'll redo that. Not a big deal. I took some time the other day and I had that it's the Honda silicone lubricant for door seals.
Something.
Totally blank on the name of it.
I don't remember the name of it, but I know what you're talking about.
It seems pretty good because I had an air leak on the driver's side, like a wind noise on the Q45. And I was like, well, let me try it. And I did just the driver's side door seal and the wind noise went away. So I noticed.
So it makes it almost like a fresh kind of seal. It makes it.
The whole point of the stuff is it makes the seals swell up because they were having a problem with CRXs. No, sorry, Del Sols with the roofs leaking. And that's where the Shin-Etsu grease. That's where the stuff comes from.
Okay.
It basically makes the rubber swell up and seal better. So I cleaned all the door seals on the Montero and then applied all this stuff to basically clean them and condition them. And they had some dirt on them. And I'm wondering now, because I was driving the other night and it was cold outside and I had the heat on, but driving down the highway, I felt cold air on my leg. I was like, oh, that's weird. It's coming from like the door. So I'm wondering if when I had my truck parked with the nose slightly down and it was raining, water was running in through the doors and just making it under the seals and leaking onto the carpet. Because there's no windshield leak. There's no other leaks anywhere.
Yeah, we proved that by taking it to the shop, right? The glass shop was like, how are you talking about? Windshield does not leak.
Yeah, so I figured that was worth a shot. We'll see if it leaks again. So I did all the seals. It's definitely worth, like, you might spend an hour, and especially where you are, where rubber gets really dried out.
Sure. Yeah, it might make it last a lot longer, too.
Yeah, I'm going to do all the other cars. I think the G20's got a little bit of wind noise, one of the doors.
I was just looking. It's not super expensive. It's like $13 for a little can of it, a little squeeze tube of it, like a toothpaste tube.
Right.
So
yeah, I think it's a pretty cheap. A lot of people swear by it, so I figured I'd give it a shot this year.
Yeah, Honda makes some good stuff. They make a nice like a wipe on polish too that kind of people don't even know about just from Honda. So
I'm going to do the rest of the doors in Q45 and do all the other cars. So it's a good way to restore stuff that's sometimes NLA on an older car, like the ones that we like. You know, it's not like a 50s or 60s car that you can probably buy new door seals for.
Sure.
These ones just aren't available anymore. So, Talon stayed the same. Just got a sticker this year. Actually, didn't even do that last year. So, I got some stuff. I'm going to try to get to that car. I have all the Volk Metalcraft adjustable control arms for the rear. I've got all new OEM bolts for the rear. I've got the subframe sitting in my garage. That's got the 4-bolt diff in it. I could actually take that apart in the wintertime here. Get that all set up. So I have the he was doing a Black Friday sale on shipping. So I got the adjustable or the fixed toe things that go in the end of the control arms. You pull the
Okay.
rubber part out with the like eyelet on the end of it, and then put these metal pieces in and weld them in, which I can weld now.
Again, new skill acquired.
Yeah. And then you set them up. Either you adjust the toe with using those, or you adjust the toe using the bolts, which will be free, and because they'll be brand new. Because the problem with those cars is you go into the corner, you've got you're going down the road, you've got some nice negative toe. It helps with turning. And then as soon as you go into the corner, it pulls the toe out and it makes the car want to understeer. So,
Sure. Which they're definitely known for understeering, that's for sure.
yeah, well, it's because of this active toe that they did, which really was a holdover of the four-wheel steering on the car, on the Galant, because it was just the rubber allowed enough give in the toe pieces without being too loose. That's how the four-wheel steering worked. It actually pulled on those control arms.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yep. And then they just left it there for the DSMs.
Saving some money, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. And I got a front mount. I need to get that installed. It's been sitting on that for a while.
Yeah, it's been multiple years.
Yeah, I just haven't gotten to that car. I was doing other cars that were easier tasks. So, and then the other day, I finally got around to doing the IE intake on the Alltrack, and I've got the tuner came in. I think I talked about that, so I got to do the tune at some point,
Excellent.
and that makes 3 years of the car.
That tune on that car is just a plug and play thing, right? You don't have to do any work.
Well, yeah, I got to click some buttons. You need to have a battery charger on it because you don't want to
Okay.
brick the ECU if the voltage
Yeah, that
drops.
would be good.
But that intake, it was pricey. It was on sale, of course, but the fit and finish, excellent.
It looks really pretty.
Like, I did not have to. Like, one of the ends was a little bent over from being in the box. I just bent it back slightly on the sheet metal part of the intake. But other than that, it lined right up. Like, there was no messing with it. Like,
It didn't take you multiple days like the Montero one did.
No. It's nice to install a well-engineered part that is made to fit your car.
Now, did it make for better intake noises?
It's a little bit louder, but not that much louder in the car. It's weird.
Okay.
It's very loud outside the car now, which is kind of like, I didn't want to make it louder for pedestrians. I wanted to hear it more.
For you as the driver, right?
Like, you could kind of hear it. You remember with the windows down driving it.
Sure.
You can definitely hear it more with the windows down. And you can hear it a little bit more. Like before with the windows up, you really couldn't hear the turbo or the blow-off valve at all. And now you can hear it.
I also think that a lot of that probably has to do with the fact that we're not talking about a 1991 Galant, and that's what we're used to working on and making modifications to. We're talking about a 2019 Volkswagen. Like, it probably has a lot more sound deadening and a lot better, NVH performance in general to kind of on purpose keep those noises outside.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think people's perception of what a loud intake is a lot different from mine because I'm used to more racy cars.
Again, yep.
Like, if you put this on your car and this is your first car that you've ever done a performance mod, you're going to be like, wow, that's really loud.
Sure.
For me,
but
I'm
yours
like,
was the password JDM on the SI back in 2001, 2002.
yeah,
Which was ridiculously loud.
it sounded amazing though.
Yeah, it was really good.
This is like, okay, it's louder, but it's not like obnoxious, which I guess that's fine. Because if I was test driving it, if you're just driving down the highway, windows up, even driving down the street, if I didn't tell you it was an intake on this car, you would never know.
Right. Which, if you rewind the podcast back about 3 years and you bought the car, you were never going to buy any parts for it anyway.
I wasn't.
So that's probably the ultimate goal. So.
Yeah. And we were talking
Hey,
about
3
this.
years is a long time to stick by your guns there.
It is.
That's impressive.
And we were talking about it. This is a CARB certified intake. It came with a CARB sticker, so 50 state legal.
That's cool.
Mhm.
Part of the reason it costs so much.
It is part of the
Because
reason
they
why it
go
costs so
through
much.
the CARB certification process, I'm sure.
It does. We did that at the last company I worked for. It's expensive.
Yep. Yeah, it's like 10 or 15 grand, isn't it?
Yeah, but it lets you sell stuff in California. So,
Which is important because it's a huge market. So,
and then it lets you say that it's 50 state legal because if it passes CARB, it'll
Passes
pass everywhere
everywhere.
else. So
well, it looks pretty. Next time in Mass, I'll have to give it a listen.
it does. It does look really nice, and I'm glad I added the cover because it supports it on one side, like on the driver's side, which without the cover, it kind of hangs loose a little bit. And I was like, that's kind of weird. But once you put the cover on it,
Plus, with the cover on, it keeps all the chipmunks out that are nesting underneath your intake cover.
well, it's all open still. The cover's really just a top cover.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't seal it. But maybe it might keep them out because it's not an enclosed space.
Right. It's not as obvious that you can just get in there either.
Because they were in the bottom of the air box when I took the old one out. Just a little bit. Yeah, I don't know what to do about them.
Just go outside and yell at them all the time.
I can't even. I caught one in a trap I had and killed it. Other than that, I've never seen one run across the ground. Like, you see squirrels out there. You'll see bird. I've never seen a chipmunk.
It's
So that's
sneaky.
why I wouldn't even expect them to be here, but I've never seen one. It's very strange. Like at my parents'
Sneaky
place in
guys.
New Hampshire, you'd see them run around in the woods all the time.
I always see them near our parents' neighborhood in Salem. Like they were in the woods there sometimes. I remember there was one in your dad's garage once years ago.
Oh yeah, and their old cat would kill him and catch him.
Yep.
And you'd see him all the time. But it's very strange. It's very annoying.
Yeah, I'm annoyed by it, and I don't even deal with it. So the good news is, though, is that you just keep an eye on it and hope for the best.
Yeah, it's just they make a mess though. It's the other day I put all the battery tenders on the cars and opened the hood and the G20. It was all nested under the G20 again.
As per the usual.
Yeah, I stuffed some dry ice sheets in there again. They'll probably nest on top of them. Oh, thank you. You gave us blankets.
Right. Nice smelling blankets.
Anyway, what do you got?
A lot. This is going to be kind of a wild ride. It's been a hell of a year for cars. I'll try to do a quick synopsis on each. I don't want to get too deep into the weeds because there's like 15 of them. And that's a lot of weeds. So we'll do it like the Oscars here. We're going to start in memoriam of the cars that are no longer with us. So when I started the year, I had a Saab, a Volkswagen Jetta Sportwagen, and a Galant VR4. All three of those cars have moved on to some better, some worse pastures. So we all remember the Saab. That was my tremendously sad story of getting the car ready to come out here, getting it ready by New Year's, leaving actually New Year's Day to drive out here, driving out here successfully, commuting with the car here a little bit, driving it here and there, and then getting it smashed into while driving down the highway one day and having it totaled. So the Saab was fixed in time to drive for New Year's, and it was totaled before Valentine's Day. So had a good solid month and 7 days of that car. Big sad, because I had it looking pretty good, pretty fresh, but it's gone. Eventually, later in the year, I sold the Jetta Sportwagon, thanks to the crazy used car market of 2022. I bought that car in 2019 for, I don't know, $9,000 or $10,000 with 30 something thousand miles on it. Drove it for 3 years, drove it across country multiple times. I had my first job when I moved out here, just being an Uber driver in that car. Used it for all kinds of moves and all kinds of work stuff. And I had 94,000 miles on it when I sold it, which was, significantly more than I think it was 38,000 when I bought it. So I drove that car 60,000 or so miles in the 3 years or so I had it, and I was able to sell it for like 14,500. So I made $4,500 selling a modern era car.
Never happen again.
Not very normal. Yeah. In fact, that's the only reason I sold it. I had no plan on selling the car, but I was looking at the market and looking at the value of them, and I was like, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Not realizing diesel is about to go up $2 a gallon.
And yeah, I sold it just before diesel went up as well. So it was a once in a lifetime opportunity to make money on a modern era car. And it was like, you know what? I feel this is the way. The guy who bought it, oddly enough, had the same career that I had for the past most of my life as an insurance appraiser. And he was looking for a car that got better fuel mileage than the Jeep that he was driving. So he was stoked at it. And, even at the $14,500 that he paid, it was underneath what the value was. So he feels like he got a good deal. I feel like I got a good deal, and everybody goes home happy, right? The car is still in my neighborhood. I see it from once in a while. It's still pretty clean. It's the guy who bought it takes good care of it. So couldn't be happier with that one. Third car I sold was very recent. It was the Galant VR4 that went to a good friend of ours, Brad, another Brad. Brad is the theme of my cars this year. Everybody involved is named Brad.
That's pretty unhinged.
Yeah, it is a little unhinged.
Like,
I sold that car to Brad.
Excuse me, you can't buy my car unless your name is Brad. And
right.
I want to buy that car, but is your name Brad?
Right. So I sold that car to Brad A. And I used the money from the Saab, was a big portion of the money I used to purchase the 944, ding, 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 another car, from Brad B. So it's Brad A, Brad B, and then me, Brad D.
You need Brad C.
We need a Brad C, yeah. So your name is Brad C, and you want to sell me a car, or buy a car, preferably buy a car, give me a call. So yeah, so I teased a little bit there on the 944. I did buy the 944. I bought a lot of cars this year. It was kind of a banner year for buying cars. I ended last year buying that 81 Cressida, which I'll get to in a minute, and said, well, that's the last car for a while. Well, this year rolled around and the Saab got wrecked. So I had some cash rolling around. And Brad B, who's been on the podcast multiple times, was out here visiting, and I was talking about 924s because I kind of wanted one. And he said, well, Brad, why don't you buy a 944? And I said, because I really want a 924. I have a flat body Starion, and I've owned a first generation RX-7, and I'd like to have the contemporary early narrow body, transaxle Porsche. And he goes, yeah, you don't want that. 944s are way better. And I was like, yeah, they're more expensive. And he goes, they're more expensive, but they're a better car. I happen to have a 944 you can buy. And I said, well, I don't know. I'll think about it. So then he hit me with a number, which I thought was very fair to buy the car. I thought about it for about maybe 12 hours. And I said, you know what, Brad? Fine, I'll buy the car. So I bought Brad B's 1984 Euro Market 944, which is coincidentally the old Radwood 944, known as Rad 44. So I've now, at this point, I've sold 3 cars. I've bought 1 car. Then I bought a Honda Civic. 1991 Honda Civic. This 91 Honda Civic I bought it. And then Arizona Jordan said, hey, my truck's going in for service. Do you mind if I drive the Honda Civic for a while? And I was like, that's cool. So he took the Honda Civic and drove it for a while, and unfortunately it burned a valve while he was driving it. So he and I put a new used cylinder head on it. Went through the whole process. It was I'm going to get the numbers wrong. D16 versus D15. So it was a D16 with a D15, or something like that. It was some hybrid hot rod head that how they built the Hondas. Put the all car together. It was smoking like crazy and wasn't making good compression. So since the car ran fine until it burned a valve, we assumed this new head was bad. Actually, we talked about that when you were out here, Andrew, because you were going over it with me, and we're like, nope, forget about it. This car's junk. Sold that car under the guise of, hey, we don't know what's wrong. It could just need a head. Could need a whole engine.
You know what?
The
Don't
buyer-
trash it. This one's garbage.
Yes, I was done. I was at a point where I hadn't lost money on the car, but I was at a point where if I kept spending money on the car, I was going to lose money on the car, and I didn't love the car enough to spend money in the car anymore. So the right move for the car was to move the car out, right? So he who bought the car bought another cylinder head, sent it out, had it all machined, all brand new, put it on the car, still no compression in cylinder 3. So something happened to the rings in cylinder 3 when it all went down, when it burned a valve. So I still don't know what happened. He took that engine out, threw it in the trash, bought another used Honda engine for $2.95, because that's how Hondas work. Put the Honda in, put that head on that he had just had redone. Car's back up and running. Car runs great. It's somebody else's car. I don't worry about it anymore. But the good news is I got out of it. No harm, no foul. So that car both came and left in 2022. And I don't know the last time I bought a car and got rid of it in 1 year. Less than a year. It was like maybe 3 months, 4 months. So just a big, huge shift in how I work on cars. There was a Subaru that came and went, but the intention was to buy it, fix it, sell it. So that's gone. That doesn't even count because a modern era car. I don't even want to talk about that one really. There was a 1980 Toyota Corolla that Arizona Jordan had started driving. He had picked up in a trade with a couple other things he had, and I fell in love with the car before I even owned it and told him he couldn't sell it. He had to sell it to me. So he did, of course, for Brad's Island of Misfit Toyotas. So the 80 Corolla was added to the collection. So now I've sold 3, bought and sold 2, and bought 2 to keep back. So all told, I'm still -1, right? Then the Mercor, which is the most recent edition, came up. So that became additional car number 3. So while it might seem ridiculous that this year I've added a Porsche 944, a Mercor XR4Ti, and a 1980 Toyota Corolla station wagon, I have at least gotten rid of 3 cars while adding 3 cars. So we'll call this Project Car Stasis. The number has not changed. It's still too high, but at least it hasn't changed. It's at least a sustainable number of cars. Well, it's not really a sustainable number of cars. It's sustainable as far as it was the year before as well. But the good thing is, and the way I look at it is, I got rid of the Saab, which I'm not thrilled about. I got rid of the Volkswagen, which I made money on. And I got rid of the Galant VR4, which has been hanging over me since like 2015. And it was time. I had lost my indoor storage. The car had gone outside for a couple of years. It was time to move it on before it became to the point where I was not that old guy who's like, I'm going to get to it one day, and it winds up in a junkyard. Brad A. bought the car. He's already got the motor at the machine shop again. They're going through it again. Car's already been cleaned. He's already fixed a bunch of stuff. He's ordered a ton of parts for it. It's going to have a brand new turbo on it. It's going to be a good car. He's really, really dug in hard. So I'm excited to see that car get put on the road. I'm glad it's kind of out of my life. I also am not glad it's out of my life. But I think overall, the 3 cars I added, the 944, the Merkur, and the Corolla, are all good cars. So I've definitely done this, like, I'm trying to go quality over quantity here. Trying to make better choices and have cars that aren't giant project cars. I think is going to make my life better, right? I don't know if you agree, Andrew, but I think the less huge projects I have, the better my life is. So,
Yeah.
moving on to project cars. That being said, I have a few other cars still. Let's talk about the ones I didn't drive at all this year.
All right.
The sad cars.
Okay.
And then after this conversation is over, we're going to have a conversation about the sad cars.
All right. Here we go.
Because things have happened. So, 1981 Toyota Cressida.
Yep.
I picked it up in November of 21. Life got in the way a little bit as it does. I didn't touch it until probably March to April of this year.
I feel like this car has potential.
This car has potential. I'm pretty sure it does. Things are moving on it, and the updates in this car actually don't end until 3 days ago. So it's currently actively being worked on, which is good. So the first thing I did when I first pulled it out was drop the fuel tank out of it because it had been sitting since, I think we determined it was like, what year was it? 2003 or 4? I have to double check paperwork.
I think so. That
It's
sounds
sitting
right.
for like damn near 20 years. So the tank was full of garbage. All the fuel
Oh.
lines were junk.
Oh, God! Why did you just remind me that's that long ago?
What's that?
2003.
That's-
20 years ago.
Yeah, well, if I have to know it, you have to know it.
Oh,
I
man.
don't even remember why it came up the other day, but it came up the other day, and I was pretty upset about
It
it.
was like 5 years ago.
Right, it's not good. We were watching something about Back to the Future, and they were talking about the 20th anniversary, and I was like, ugh, that was 2004. So, which was 20 years ago. So it's almost at its 40th anniversary now, and we're like, woof. But anyway, the 81 Cressida sat for damn near 20 years. So the fuel system all needed to be replaced. I'm going to try to go short version to long stories here. Fuel system was replaced. I went through every hose from the fuel rail back is new on that car. There's no old hoses on that car at all. Couldn't get it to run. It turned out that the ECU tucked up inside the dashboard, the clip that holds the connector had broken off and was not plugged in all the way, so it was not turning on the fuel injection properly. It wasn't pulsing the fuel injectors properly. Got it to run, didn't get it to rev. I've kind of been going through all the vacuum lines. Actually, when you were out here, Andrew, we were going through vacuum lines. We also needed intake tubes. Managed to order some stuff from siliconehoses.com.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, we did get the wrong angle.
What was it,
off
30
of-
versus 45?
We got a 30 degree. We should have got a 45.
It should.
We
Does
didn't-
it, like,
we didn't
flex
think
enough?
It was 45.
No?
It does ish. It's gonna flex enough to be proof positive the car works.
Okay.
And we'll see how it all goes
right.
together. So that over the Christmas break, which is coming up this weekend, I have 4 days off, and I intend on finishing that project right there. Also, we bought a 1 foot piece of tube. that
Yeah.
is significantly too long by almost twice
really?
what it needs to be. Yeah.
So
So we may have made some errors in our measurements, but it's okay. We'll make it work.
we're kind of eyeballing it. It looked like that, but I mean, that
Yep.
stuff's not that expensive from that place.
No, it wasn't. It was like the shipping was more expensive than the parts, I think.
Yeah.
So
you
it
can
wasn't
just
a big deal.
reorder the right length.
I'm just gonna cut it. It's fine. It's not like a turbo hose where it needs to have the rolled edge of the clamp on it. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
totally fine. So I'll just cut it and make it fit. So I worked on that car a couple days ago. I finished replacing all the silicone hoses, all the vacuum hoses with silicone. And now I just need to put that last intake pipe system together and fire the car up and run it and see what happens. So hopefully that car runs better now. 78 Cressida. This also, actually, I don't have a 78 Cressida. 79 Cressida. Can't even keep track of stuff. 79 Cressida. I talked last time about I was fighting with the ball joint on the Pitman arm.
Yeah.
And you so wisely said, why don't you get a ball joint puller?
Mm-hmm.
So Naomi went out one day when I was at work and grabbed me a ball joint puller. The issue I came across with that particular tool was that the Pitman arm is so narrow and the ball joint puller is so wide to fit in a control arm that I couldn't quite wrap it all the way around the Pitman arm. Or excuse me, the idler arm, not Pitman arm. But I managed to jam it in between on one side and jam it up against the center link and make it work. So it had to be reset 3 or 4 times, 5 or 6 times. But eventually it popped and it changed. And I put the new idler arm in and the car steers significantly better than it ever has before. So that's a positive. So that project did get finished last week. The alignment is now pretty far off because I think it might have been aligned when it was worn, because it's only gone 3,000 miles since the suspension was put on and it was aligned, and I think it was already worn out before then. So it definitely needs an alignment now. That being said, I already needed new tires, so I might as well do all new tires in an alignment at the same time. And at the same time, I'm going to change the wheels to a set of wheels that I bought for the car. So there's a lot going on there. So that's the 79 Cressida. Oh, I was going to talk about the cars I haven't driven yet. Anyway, I'm going off order now. We're not talking about the cars I haven't driven. We're just talking about the cars. Going back to cars I haven't driven. 78 Toyota. This one here, now that the Galant is gone, is the last remaining project that I questionably shouldn't or should own. I'm thinking about putting a poll up, Andrew.
What?
This truck is just, it's taking away all of my thought process and time from other things. I put another post out there looking for an engine. Nothing really came to fruition. One engine came to fruition, but it was a later model one, and it would require more work to use. I'm not sure I want to do it. I've been teasing back and forth about, will this car go? Will this truck finish? Will it be gone? What's going to happen? I think it might be the best move to move it on.
Aren't there like 5 people that will like finish it in Phoenix?
Probably more than 5. So I'm not making the decision right now on the podcast, but we're going to, at the end of tonight, I think I'm going to be like, let me know what y'all think. I just don't know what to do with this truck. I really want to finish it, but at the same time, I also have all this other stuff to deal with. So, and I think the most important project is a car I'm not even going to cover today because it's not mine. But the plan is to have the Mustang engine and suspension done at least, and the car drivable before next summer. So the Toyota's just kind of in the way. But I haven't touched it. The entire year, I haven't touched the car. Truck, excuse me. So I think that's kind of a sign, right?
Sounds like it.
Yeah, I don't know. I know you don't want to see it go that way. I know, actually, I also bought that from Brad B. He doesn't want to see it go that way. But there's just so much to do, and the longer I wait, the less chance I think I have of finishing it. So I don't know. We'll see.
If you had the right engine to go in it, it would just work. But
then it needs a lot of everything else too, because that truck has also been sitting for a long time.
no.
It's going to need the brakes gone through. It's going to need the fuel system gone through. It's going to need tires. It's going to need interior. It's going to need a windshield. It's going to need body work. It's going to need all kinds of stuff. So the passenger side inner fender area is still crunched in pretty hard. It's not like engine in, car perfect. You know what I mean? There's a lot to do. So I don't know.
All right.
And we'll see. The next kind of, to quote Ron LP here, albatross of the collection, the 84 Starion has also been sitting for over a year. This car can't be sold, so that's fine. But there's no update. I haven't done anything. It does run. It does drive. It just doesn't accelerate past 4,000 RPM. I'm 99.9% sure it's because it's an aftermarket Chinese fuel pump. And if I just put a better fuel pump in it, it'd probably be fine, because I've literally replaced everything else. That car has also had the fuel system entirely replaced. It has had the injectors cleaned. It has had all of the things that control the fuel replaced in that car, and it's still not running. So the only thing that's a poor link in the chain is that Chinese fuel pump. So I think that's probably what's keeping that car back, other than the ugly bodywork and everything else. But I can't sell that car. The goal is still to find a solid West Coast sun-beaten narrow-body Starion and switch everything over. So that car is out of the question. 78 Colt is still in the same condition it's always been in. It just works. Every now and again, it overheats, and you pull over, and you let it cool off, and it's fine again for 6 more months. I don't know why. I also don't care why. I just been driving and enjoying the car. So there's no rhyme or reason for that one, Andrew. You and I remember that overheating problem in that car. It goes back since
it's weird.
It goes back to since I first bought it, right? Like,
Yeah,
we've put 2 water pumps in it. I've put multiple radiators in it. I've flushed the heater core 1,000 times. It just doesn't make any sense. So, and there's no consistency to it. It'll run fine for 3, 4, 5, 6 months, and then one day when it's not even midsummer, it'll just overheat. So, none of it makes sense. But it works well enough to use it. I just keep a gallon of water in it because the entire cooling system only takes a gallon of water. So if it happens, you let it cool off, put some more fluid in it, and keep on going home. And it's just the way the car is going to be for a little while. I think eventually I'd like to do a motor swap in that car to either a naturally aspirated 4G or a 2.6 turbo from Starion, and just forget about the whole factory system. Who knows? But in the meantime, it works. The car looks cool. I still love it. It's my favorite car. I don't care what anybody says. I love that car tremendously, and I'll never get rid of it. So it's fine. No complaints. Not even going to complain that it overheats. It's fine. 74 Colt. Did a bunch of work to that this year. Last year was the huge year where I did the top end of the motor over and freed up the bottom end. This year, I got the car ball rebuilt and actually drove the car up and down the street a few times, which was huge. It's still not running quite right. Big shout out to Jeremy, former guest, and his father actually went and looked at it while I was stuck out here because I haven't had a chance to go back to Massachusetts since May this year. And they determined that even though we had drained the fuel out of the tank and put fresh fuel in it, that the fuel in the tank is causing the car to not run again. So what needs to be done to that car is I need to drop the tank out of it and send the tank out somewhere and have it cleaned, because it's filling the car back up with all the crap we washed out of it. So the plan with that car always will be to get it running and get it out here and then finish up that. But that car is so close. It's not even funny. It's so close. It hurts. It's just hard for me to get anything done because it's 3,000 miles away from me, but it's almost there. 79 Colt has not been touched since you took a starter out of it for the 78 Colt. The good news is that car is going away, and a longtime listener and longtime friend of ours is taking that car and has a vision for that car that hopefully he'll be able to see through. So that car will be gone probably in the spring. So goodbye 79 Colt. That's the beige Colt named Kelly because it was saved from certain death from the widow of its owner, and the owner's name originally was Kelly. So 91 RX-7. There's good news there. Believe it or not. Have I even told you this, Andrew?
No.
So 91 RX-7. Another friend of the show and friend of ours, Chris, has a front clip for one.
Yeah.
I gave him the dimensions to cut off, so he's cutting that off for me.
Okay.
And I have a body shop in Massachusetts that's going to do the work.
Okay.
So that car will be fixed by somebody else, not me, because it's heavy body work and I don't want to do it. And that will be done hopefully also late winter, early spring. That is all scheduled to do. I just need to talk to Chris and remind him to cut that nose off and get that all taken care of for me. So that car has a bright future. Not sure what I'll be doing with it, but at least it'll be no longer wrecked and sitting. 71 NSU is still just sitting, waiting for me to have storage out here. Don't have that yet. That's coming eventually. 68 Camaro, same story. Haven't driven in a year. It's just sitting. 84 Sapporo. I've been driving it sparingly, going to a few cars and coffees and stuff with it. It also continues, much like the 78 Colt, to be one of my favorites, and it just works. So no project car updates there. Just been enjoying it. And the 93 Eclipse, oof, we had a long conversation about that this year. Very long conversation about that. But the good news is that even after all that with the igniter, not igniter, and the ECU, not ECU, and eventually that, I don't know what you call it, the cam sensor,
Mm-hmm.
cam sensor, crank sensor kind of combo.
Cam
piece.
crank sensor.
Yep. So that
Top
car
dead
is
center
now
Top
Yep,
dead center
been-
sensor.
been running perfect, and I've been driving it to and from work almost every day, and life is good. So,
Yeah, I'm glad we figured that out.
yeah, me too. The car it runs so good. It's so nice.
Yeah, that was a weird thing that it just ended up being. That was a bad part, right?
Yep, brand new part was bad,
Ugh.
so super annoying. But that's all my cars, Andrew.
All right, Brad. So no more buying cars this year with 2 weeks left.
No more buying cars this year. Next year, I can't make any promises though.
All right.
I don't know what the plan is for next year, but this year, no more cars. I can make it to the end of December without buying any more cars.
All right.
Actually, that's not true.
Uh-oh.
Well, I'm going to throw it out there. I'm looking for a sub $2,000 car to buy for my daughter.
Oh, okay.
My kid needs a car. Yeah. A short version of a long story. She needs a car. So the budget is low. She's going to pay for it. I'm not buying her a car. She wants to buy the car. But it needs to be like $1,500. If it needs some work, that's okay. I'll put some work into it for her. But she wants to buy the car. It's important for them to buy the car, and I'll facilitate and help facilitate. So if somebody has a car that's for sale inexpensively, whether in Phoenix or Boston, let me know.
Well, that's too bad
So
you
something in Phoenix.
got rid of that Subaru because that would have been perfect before you put that much work into it.
Honestly, timing is everything, right?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we didn't need a car until after the car was already sold. So the next car of that ilk, a 10 to 15-year-old car, something modern enough to be modern and safe. Fuel injection and airbags are important. And again, like I said, if it's not perfect, something I put some work into is okay. If I buy a car out here, I might make it reliable enough and nice enough to drive out there and then fly back here. Or if I find a car out there, something that doesn't need a ton of work, because I'll be paying somebody to do it if it's out there. So just something that's a good, 19, 20-year-old kid car. So automatic, and that's really the only rule.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, there may be another car purchase this year if that happens, but it's not for me. I promise.
I don't count that.
Yeah.
Not count it.
So, okay. Not counted.
No.
Fair enough.
I've looked at a couple. I mean, I'm still looking for a 142. Couple
Sure.
popped up on Bring a Trailer. There was a cool white one that sold for I think 10 grand, blue interior.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad of a price.
And then there was one this week. I think it's still going on. It's got a Z-Tech swap, Ford Z-Tech.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's not a normal swap. It's a normal swap in like a Ford Escort,
Yeah.
but not in a Volvo 142.
But man, you really blew me away.
I like it. It was like 20 grand.
I know. I was like, because it's got some rust on it. And in the Discord, which you should come hang out and message us, we were talking about it. We'll get you in there. We were like, oh, that car's like 12 grand. And you're like, no, be 20. And we're like, okay,
Right.
sure. And literally the first day of the auction, somebody bid it to 18 grand. Like, what?
Yep. Yeah, it's almost like I do that for a living.
I know. So game
So, actually,
recognizes
speaking
game.
of which, I think I will talk about that here now as well at the end of the podcast.
Sure.
If anybody knows anybody in the online auction world that's hiring, also hit me with a message, because I am unfortunately looking for a job as of the end of this year.
Yep.
So my particular employer is changing the way they're doing things, and they no longer have a need for an appraiser. So I'm not quite sure how it's going to work, but I'm not going to pass judgment on anything other than the fact that I now don't have a job. So I would like to stay in the online auction world. It's been very fun. I don't want to go back to car insurance. I'm really good at it. It's my true passion as, work, and I've loved the past year and a half doing it, and I'd love to stay in the field. So if anybody knows anybody that's hiring, hit me up. So don't want to talk about that too much, I guess, because it's still stuff in the process, but it doesn't hurt to put my name out there and let people know what's going on. So
No, it does not.
Yep. But anyway, that Volvo is ending in 3 days, Andrew.
Yeah.
You want to guess what the price is currently?
I stopped looking. Is it like 22?
Oh, 27.
What? It is
Yeah,
like
that's too much money.
overall, like not that nice of a
Yeah.
car.
Yep. That's too much money.
It's got some decent parts in it, but it's not like
Yeah,
the
you're
paint
buying the hot
is-
rod. You're not buying the body.
No, the paint is like the close-up paint of the fenders was all orange peeled. Like it's
Yep.
like rattle canned, and they don't quite match or line up. Like it was like
Yeah.
if this car gets close to like 8 or 10 grand, I was like, that'd be a cool car to buy. But then it jumped up to like 18. I was like, all right, never mind.
Yeah. No, the quarter panels are very rusty on this car too.
Yeah.
I wouldn't pay a dime over 10 despite anything that's happening with this car is mechanically. But I don't know. I'm just, if all it had was bad paint, I could see it being a mid-20s car, but the rust scares me a lot.
I don't see it. I mean, to me, that doesn't seem like 20 grand worth of parts.
So a functional running Z-Tech swapped car, it's got, a diff, it's got a good transmission, it's got a bunch of stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a 20 grand car. It's a $20,000 to $25,000 car without rust. With rust, I would say it's a $20,000 car, but I don't understand the price point that it's at right now.
Yeah, it's really weird.
But-
It was a no reserve car. So
Yep.
I'll
They're
keep looking.
Plenty happy with that number, I'm sure. Yeah.
I'm looking for a decent. I really would like
Absolutely.
a coupe, manual transmission, and preferably a fun color.
Yeah, this was neat. The color was good. The whole car was cool. It was a neat car. It's just way outside of it. It's got a bunch of suspension work done to it too.
Yeah, but yeah, I know. But I was looking at stuff for these cars. Like the suspension is like really cheap to do over.
Is it?
Yeah, it's like shocks are really cheap, springs are really cheap. This thing had like chintzy wheel adapters with spacers.
Oh, I already closed it out. I have to look again later.
It had like weird.
It's funny because I genuinely like these cars now too,
Yeah,
but I don't want to buy one because you want one, so I'll let you have it. They seem like a pretty substantial car for an old car, and compared to like a Corolla that I am driving, seems like a lot chintzier of a car, And I'm not complaining about that. It's just something I was thinking about.
yeah, I like because the greenhouse is like upright in the back,
Yep.
so you can actually get like a car seat in the back there.
Sure, and it's a fairly substantial car, so it would be okay to have a child in the back.
Yeah,
I think it seems like a decent thing. So
and they're,
anyway,
they're
yeah.
still like vintage enough that they're cool because I want to get into something with, I say,
the
I
chrome
say
bumper-esque.
chrome bumpers, but it's really they're like aluminum or something or whatever. But
Well, they were designed with chrome bumpers and then changed to aluminum bumpers.
yeah, it's
So I think that's the important part.
a separate bumper car, right?
Yeah. Yep. It doesn't have a body color, urethane cover over bumper. It's an exposed bumper car is probably what we should say, right?
Yeah.
The bumpering part of the bumper is.
But it is funny though how much of a difference, and we talk about this a lot, that denotes like a classic car versus like a slightly older retro car.
Yep.
Like,
yeah, I think it's a major distinction point in the respect from non-car people for driving an old car. Like non-car people see a car with urethane bumpers and they just think it's a older car,
older junk car that you're driving around.
Yep. The car with chrome bumpers or separate bumpers, exposed bumpers, I guess, as we decided, kind of has that like, our friends at the DWA podcast call sense of occasion. And it's one of the factors of that sense of occasion. Like it becomes part of the personality of the car. It's like, oh, this car's old enough that it has exposed bumpers. So this is an old car.
And I never buy something so that other people will like it. I buy what I like.
Oh, absolutely not. But that's part of the whole sense of occasion thing. Like they talk about on their podcast all the time. I don't want to steal their word or their wording, but that's really what it is. It's a feeling when you're driving that car because you're not doing it to make the non-car person be like, oh, that guy's a car guy. He drives an old car. It's just that like it commands more. Oh, I don't know if respect is the right word, but respect kind of is the word. Like people on the road will avoid you generally. Like you don't just blend in; they notice you. You're less likely to be bumped into by an errant driver because the car's noticed. I think that's part of it, honestly. When I'm driving a chrome bumper car, I notice people notice it. And again, I'm not the kind of person, much like yourself, who's out looking for attention. Like I'm not into cars for attention. If I was into cars for attention, I wouldn't drive Dodge Colts and Plymouth Sapporos. I love my cars because I love my cars. And that's, I've preached that since day one of this podcast and since before this podcast existed. You don't buy the car that everybody tells you to buy. You buy the car that you want to buy or the 14 cars that you want to buy or whatever it may be. But sometimes it's nice to get that kind of mutual respect from people on the road that aren't car people because they're like, oh, that's cool. That guy's out enjoying himself in his old car. And maybe it's an old man thing and where I'm in my 40s now. I'm not old, but not a kid either. So it's like, I just like having that a little extra. I don't know what it is. I can't explain it. I'm trying my best to explain it. And it's sounding like all I care about is what other people think. And that's really not it at all. But I just like old cars.
Well, it's not that. It's like when I don't know. I guess it is. I guess you do kind of care about what people think because it's like you're trying to go to a car show with it and like a cruise night and they give you a hard time unless you've got chrome bumpers. So,
right.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess that's why I don't like cruise nights. So why am I going? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't go to any that are elitist at all anymore. I mean, I go to my gatherings with like-minded people. So,
yeah, I have less options here. So,
yeah, I've been driving that Mercor for a week, and it's been weird because that car seems to be loved by everybody that's seen it. Everybody's like, "Oh my god, this thing's so cool!" Like, all right, it's just an '80s German Ford, but cool. I'm glad you all like it. It is nice that when people appreciate the thing that you put your time and effort into, but at the same time, it's not for them; it's for you. And if you're doing it for them, you're doing it for the wrong reasons. Go buy a new Corolla. So, I don't know. I don't have the right answer. There is no right answer, right? We're trying not to gatekeep here, but also like kind of want to gatekeep a little bit because it keeps the bad people out.
Yeah,
but I don't know how to do it right. So
yeah, I always fail to explain it properly. I don't know how to explain it. I know I want a 142 because I like the way they look.
Sure,
and that's what I want. I want that. I can't afford a 2002. I can't afford a 510.
You could buy a 4-door 510.
Yeah. They're not bad looking 4-door.
There's one for sale locally here that's really nice for $10,000.
Yeah, I don't know. They're also like
they're tinny.
They're common.
Sort of.
Not here, but out there.
They comment on the internet.
Yeah, I guess.
I had that conversation the other day too with somebody. It's like I was talking about a car. I was talking about my 944 and my Mercor, and if I were to keep one versus the other, I was like, I probably would keep the Mercor over the 944. And they said, why? The 944 is a better handling car. And I said, I know. It is a better handling car. But the Mercor is weirder. And I'm drawn to esoteric weird things. And while a 944 is not exactly common on the road, it's a lot more common than a Mercor.
It's
So-
pretty common though when you want to go to an event and there's 10
If you go
of
to an
them
event,
there.
there'd be a lot of them, yeah, and there'll be one Mercor.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Again, I'm doing it for me, so why do I care if it's obscure or not? I don't know. I like to have that esoteric weird car. And do I like to have that esoteric weird car because somebody else will be like, look at that weird guy in his weird car? I don't know. Maybe I do. I can't explain it. I do it for me, but I happen to do it for other people too, I guess. I don't know. I'm not doing it for internet credit. That's all I know. I'm not in it for the, what's the word I'm looking for they all use nowadays? I'm not in it for the clout. I'm in it to enjoy the old cars.
I like the styling of the car. I want something that's a 4-cylinder. I want something that's rear-wheel drive, and I want something that's old, and something with enough room to put 3 people in, and that kind of fits that requirements. So that's what I'm looking for.
Yep. I like it. I did want to give a quick shout out before we went away. If you ever happen to see me at a car show, please come up and say hi. I met a listener this weekend at 4 Till 4 in Scottsdale. He goes on Instagram by Westy Rabbit. His name is Ben. He drives a Volkswagen, first-gen Volkswagen Rabbit GTI.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool car on Pirelli P slots. Super nice guy, super cool car. And I love meeting people who are in our sphere. So it was cool to meet him in person. So please, if you see us, say hi.
Don't come up to me. I'll make it weird. No, I'm just kidding. It's fun. Please do.
He'll make it weird. So power through it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, social medias, Andrew. What do we got? Speaking of clout, where can people
Yeah.
find your
Please
clout
like and
pushing?
subscribe. On off topic on Instagram. I am Racinanger on Instagram. And Brad, where can they find you?
They can find me on Instagram at TSISS350. They can find both of us at Scale Autocast. And of course, we've already talked about it once before. We'll talk about it again. Come join us on the Discord. And if you have any thoughts about what cars I should keep and get rid of, feel free to hit me up any of those places. And I'd love to have a conversation about why I have too many cars and what my plan should be. So I don't plan on buying any more cars in 2023, but I can't make any promises. I don't want to make any promises. I do plan on buying a motorcycle in 23.
All right.
So-
That's fair.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Yeah, what will tomorrow bring? Who knows? But I do have too many cars. I do need to move things around. Just need to figure out how to do it and what to do it with. So,
All right, cool. As always, keep cars analog and aim for the roses.